Sage says, how do you deal with it when a man is hot and cold? Well, here's the thing, Sade. It kind of depends on the situation you're in. Are you in a relationship or are you in a dating scenario? If you're in a relationship, it's something that you should have a conversation with him about so that you can better understand why he's being hot and cold. If you're in a dating scenario, it really shouldn't matter to you that much because you should be dating in abundance. And guys that are being hot and cold, coming and going, and all that kind of stuff shouldn't be that big of a deal to you. And you shouldn't really notice it that much because you have other things to think about and you have other guys to talk to and connect with. And so you shouldn't be overly worked up or worried about any one guy. If you're in a relationship, though, and even if you're in a dating scenario, what you want to do is find out what's normal, right? Figure out first what's normal for you. Because sometimes women will come to me and they'll be like, oh, he's hot and cold. He didn't talk to me for a day or two, or whatever, right? And that's partially, I think there's two things that could be going on there. One could be your attachment style, right? If you have an anxious attachment style, you're far more likely to get worked up if somebody doesn't talk to you for a day or two. Whereas if you don't, if you're more of a secure attachment style, you're probably not worried about it as much. And so a lot of times what you think is normal behavior isn't normal behavior for a lot of other people. And so you want to figure out what normal behavior is, one, for you, and then compare that. Just talk to other people, right? Talk to other women, talk to other guys, talk to other people, and just go out there and ask questions and get some information on this. Because what I think you'll find is that a lot of people have a different idea of what's okay and what's not okay behavior, and what's hot and cold and what's not hot and cold. Now, if the guy's, hot and cold, meaning that he disappears for like 3 weeks at a time, 4 weeks at a time, or whatever, and then comes back, that's a different scenario. You should probably just get rid of that person from your life, or set up a boundary and just let them know how unattractive it is, right? How gross it is. If guys are doing that kind of stuff, just tell them it's gross. Just tell them you think it's kind of gross behavior. And when you tell them, if you're like, yeah, like you don't, just talk to them, have a conversation, say, hey, yeah, I noticed that you like disappeared for 3 weeks. I didn't hear from you. And first you want to understand where he's coming from, because sometimes guys will have very important things going on in their lives, right? Maybe he got sick. He was sick. He was down with the beer bug, right? And he got sick and he was out for a couple of weeks, and you didn't know. All you saw was that he disappeared for a couple of weeks. But to him, he was in like agony for a couple of weeks. And then he comes back and he's like, hey, I'm better. What's going on? And you're like, oh, you were hot and cold with me, right? Whereas if you understand where he's coming from and you get where he's coming from, then you can make like a rational decision about whether it's acceptable behavior or not. So those are some of the things that you want to think about.